This morning, a high-stakes standoff unfolds as President Trump issues a deadline that could reignite war. With hostages still in captivity and tensions at a breaking point, will diplomacy hold, or will the region descend into chaos? This and many more will be detailed in today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Tabitha Akko. Let's begin. Bringing you updates from the Gaza ceasefire. Tensions surrounding the Israel-Hamas ceasefire have escalated dramatically after U.S. President Donald Trump issued a stark ultimatum, warning that if all Israeli hostages are not released by Saturday at noon, the ceasefire should be cancelled and Israel should let all hell break loose. His remarks come as negotiations over the hostage prisoner exchange face renewed uncertainty, with Hamas delaying further releases, citing alleged Israeli violations of the agreement. Speaking from the Oval Office late Monday, Trump did not specify what actions the U.S. would take if his deadline was not met, but stated that Hamas would soon find out what I mean. This comment signaled growing frustration within Washington over the fragile ceasefire deal, which has seen a phased exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners over the past 3 weeks. Trump, however, criticized the slow pace of the exchanges, saying, "We want them all back, not in drips and drops, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4, all of them." Hamas has responded by stating that the door remains open for further releases, but maintains that Israel must first fulfill its commitment under the ceasefire agreement. The Palestinian militant group claims Israel has failed to uphold its end of the deal, triggering a suspension of further hostage releases. Take a look.
And all bets are off, and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday, and if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock, and after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think a lot of them are dead. I think a lot of the hostages are dead. I think it's a great human tragedy what's happened, how people can be that mean to do. I mean, the one guy was laughing when a hostage, he thought his family was alive, found out the family was dead, and his captor, so to speak, started laughing because he thought it was so funny. You know, this is a different group of people. No, I would say Saturday at 12, we want them all back. I'm speaking for myself. Israel can override it, but from myself, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not...
Adding to the growing regional tensions, Trump suggested he may withhold U.S. aid to Jordan and Egypt unless they agree to his controversial plan to relocate Palestinians from Gaza to neighboring states. If they don't agree, I would conceivably withhold it, Trump stated, reinforcing his administration's stance that a mass relocation plan is the only long-term solution for the besieged enclave. This proposal has drawn international criticism, with Arab states rejecting what they view as forced displacement and warning that such actions would constitute a violation of international law. The situation has also put Netanyahu's government under immense domestic pressure. The frail condition of recently freed hostages has sparked protests in Tel Aviv, with families demanding swift action to secure the release of all captives. Netanyahu's deliberate procrastination and unnecessary provocative statement disrupted the implementation of the agreement, said Inav Zangaukar, the mother of one hostage still in Gaza. Despite these tensions, Hamas has reiterated its willingness to continue with the deal if Israel complies with the original terms. The next round of hostage releases had been scheduled for Saturday, but Israeli military preparations suggest a possible return to hostilities if no agreement is reached. Israeli defense forces have been placed on high alert, cancelling leave for soldiers in the Gaza division, while Netanyahu's security cabinet moved up its meeting to discuss the next phase of negotiations. Behind closed doors, diplomatic effort to salvage the ceasefire ongoing, but Trump's hardline stance has cast uncertainty over the process. Egyptian officials mediating the talks have reportedly postponed discussions until they receive a clear signal from Washington about whether the U.S. intends to continue pushing for a negotiated settlement or is shifting toward endorsing an Israeli military escalation. The next 48 hours will be pivotal. If Hamas does not resume hostage releases by Saturday, Netanyahu will face growing domestic pressure to abandon the ceasefire and resume full-scale military operations in Gaza. Meanwhile, Trump's rhetoric has raised concerns that Washington's stance may further destabilize the delicate balance in the region. Whether diplomacy prevails or conflicts reignite, it may prevail or conflicts reignite. It may cause certain decisions in the coming days. Well, these are just possible predictions. Let's move over to a new development in New Zealand. A diplomatic rift is unfolding between New Zealand and the Cook Islands as the latter moves forward with a strategic agreement with China, raising concerns over Beijing's expanding influence in the Pacific. The Cook Island, a self-governing nation in free association with New Zealand, has long maintained close ties with Wellington. But its decision to engage with China without full transparency has sparked tensions. Cook Island Prime Minister Mark Brown is set to travel to Beijing this week to sign a comprehensive strategic partnership with China. However, New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters has expressed frustration over what he calls a failure to properly consult on the deal. The time has now passed. We therefore view the Cook Island as having failed to properly consult New Zealand with respect to any agreement and plans to sign this coming week in China, Peter stated. While Brown has assured that the agreement does not include security matters, New Zealand remains worried. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon emphasized the importance of transparency, stating, "In this case, there hasn't been transparency, and that's all we're asking for." Luxon said Wellington would wait to review the final agreement before deciding on any potential response. Brown, however, has defended his position, asserting that the Cook Island has the right to manage its foreign policy independently. There is no need for New Zealand to sit in the room with us while we are going through our comprehensive agreement with China, Brown told RNZ Pacific. He added that while New Zealand had been informed, the level of detail requested was not necessary. Let's watch.
To suggest that our engagement with China is somehow secretive, I reject that completely. To those who have questioned the level of consultation with New Zealand, let me be clear. Our engagement has been consistent, respectful, and open.
We have differences like this. We expect them to be discussed very openly and very transparently, and that hasn't happened here. We expect transparency, and that's not what we've seen. Job of raising our concerns, as I have done also with the Prime Minister as well separately.
In concise thoughts, looking at the argument between the both prime ministers when it comes to security and military agreement with China, it's reported that the agreement focuses on cooperation in infrastructure and deep-sea mining research, although full details will only be revealed after it is signed. Still, China's growing presence in the Pacific has been a source of concern for Western nations, as Beijing continues to expand its economic, military, and strategic footprint in the region. Moving forward while on the report, the dispute continues just days after Brown scrapped a controversial plan to introduce a separate Cook Island passport, following warnings from New Zealand that such a move would require holders to renounce their New Zealand citizenship. It also follows a similar dispute between New Zealand and Kiribati, where Peters announced a review of development aid due to a lack of potential engagement from Kiribati's leadership. Anna Paulus, an associate professor at Master University Center for Defense and Security Studies, highlighted that China's engagement in the Pacific has evolved significantly since New Zealand and the Cook Islands signed their joint declaration 24 years ago. She noted that the situation is a test for New Zealand's broader Pacific strategy. The Cook Island could be seen as something of a barometer for how New Zealand engages with its other Pacific partners. This is something New Zealand needs to get right. In the wake of this, regional dynamics continue to shift. The Cook Islands deal with China could set a precedent for how other Pacific nations navigate their relationships with global powers, especially with the growing competition between China and Western nations for influence in the Pacific. The fallout from this agreement could have long-term implications for regional diplomacy and security, as we keep watching how what nations tend to take a hold. Over to Russia and Ukraine war. The ongoing war in Ukraine has taken a new turn, as U.S. President Donald Trump hinted at a potential shift in the country. Sovereignty suggesting Ukraine may be Russian today. His remarks made in an interview have sparked concerns about the direction of U.S. foreign policies as Vice President J.D. Vance prepares to meet Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky later this week at Munich Security Conference. Meanwhile, Trump's comment underscored his push for a swift resolution to the nearly 3-year conflict, proposing a willingness to strike a deal with Russia that could alter Ukraine's future. They may make a deal, they may not make a deal, Trump stated. They may be Russian today, or they may not be Russian someday. His words reflect an ambiguous stance that contrasts the Ukraine's insistence on maintaining its territorial integrity and resisting any concessions to Moscow. Beyond military and strategic concerns, Trump has linked continued U.S. support for Ukraine to economic returns, suggesting that Kyiv should offer natural resources, particularly rare earth minerals, in exchange for American aid. We are going to have all this money in there, and I say I want it back, Trump said. I told them that I want the equivalent, like $500 billion worth of rare earth, and they have essentially agreed to do that. This marks a shift from previous U.S. aid policies, which have focused on bolstering Ukraine's defense without direct economic conditions. Meanwhile, Trump is dispatching his special envoy, Keith Kellogg, to Ukraine on February 20th to develop a framework for ending the war. The move comes as Kyiv expresses concerns that any settlement without firm security guarantees, such as NATO membership or the deployment of international peacekeepers, would merely allow Moscow time to regroup and launch fresh offensives. Take a look.
I think they both want to make a deal, but we'll have to see. It's got to be done.
What is Zelensky?
Would have never happened if I were president. This would never have happened. Millions of people are dead. General Kellogg is an excellent guy, and he's spending time doing various things. We have numerous people working on numerous different problems. You know, when I left office, wasn't long ago, a little more than 4 years ago, we had no wars, we didn't have problems. Now we got the whole world is blowing up, but we'll put out the fire.
You talk with Zelensky this week, sir?
Yeah, probably.
By telephone, what's your message?
He wants to make a deal. Let's see. We'll see. We're dealing with him, and I think they both want to make a deal, but we'll have to see. It's got to be done.
What is Zelensky?
Would have never happened if I were president. This would never have happened. Millions of people are dead.
A breakthrough in sight we may want to predict. However, Zelensky, in a recent address, reiterated Ukraine's demand for real peace and effective security guarantees. He emphasized that securing Ukraine's sovereignty is not just about defending its borders, but also ensuring economic stability and long-term sustainability. Security of people, security of our state, security of economic relations, and of course, our resource sustainability, not only for Ukraine, but for the entire free world, he stated. The diplomatic landscape remains complex. Trump, who has positioned himself as a potential broker for peace, has yet to outline a clear roadmap for negotiations. Both Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin have dismissed direct talks, with Moscow demanding Ukraine withdraw from key regions, while Kyiv refuses any territorial concessions. Russia has allegedly declared 5 Ukrainian regions: Crimea, Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia, as part of its territory, though its control over them remains contested. So what's the way out? Well, a potential Trump-Zelensky meeting is reportedly in the works, though no state has been set. While Trump has ruled out the traveling to Kyiv, reports suggest he has already held private discussions with Putin, with sources claiming the Russian leader expressed a willingness to see people stop dying. The Kremlin, however, has neither confirmed nor denied the call. As the Munich Security Conference approaches, the world will be watching closely. The U.S. delegation, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Kellogg, and Vance, will engage with Zelensky as Ukraine seeks firm commitments from Washington. With no Russian government representatives attending the summit, the question remains: will Trump's approach bring an end to the war, or will it set the stage for a geopolitical shift that could redefine Ukraine's future? Well, coming to the climax of this report, we all know the world is watching to see how President Trump's strategies and policies get to bring this outrageous war to an end. But until next time, this is where we'll be drawing the curtain on today's Flash News. Remember, we're bringing you untold stories on Undaunted ABC Amba TV at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. Until then, do have a pleasant day.